Quantcast is a quarterly quota, but I still look at it annually. Seasonality also plays a role. So I might have a really good Q1, it might come down a little for Q2, it might go up like this. So all in all, I'm looking at it annually, but I'm working quarterly.
And my quota is really well. In this quarter, you're supposed to bring in $3 million.
Yep, that's exactly it. Yep.
If you don't get that, you still,
yeah. You're okay, yeah. You're not going to get fired if you don't hit your quota, as long as you're showing activity and you're working and you have meetings. And it's not every quarter is going to be good. It's just not. It's going to be very up and down, and seasonality does play a role. And a lot of times you can't control what's happening at these organizations. Like my biggest client just now had a massive reorg in January, and I didn't know about it. And that's a bummer. That could definitely hurt me in Q2, and that's well out of my control. So that stuff happens, but it also might be good. I mean, you never know. I could end up getting new product lines or growing the business or meeting new contacts, or it just depends. So I try to be optimistic about it. But yeah, the quotas are basically the amount of money that I need to sell and deliver on in a quarter.
Sorry that we back up to talk
Yeah.
about this, but
I love it.
so when you have a reorg like that, sometimes you're such a relationship-based business. Sometimes that person might go to another company, might get work from another.
That's right.
Is that true?
That's absolutely true. And that happens. It 100% happens. I've had contacts go, actually one happened last year. I had a contact that I was working with at an agency in San Francisco, and she left and went to a different agency down the street. And you better believe I was knocking on that door next week. And I ended up getting a piece of business for a new advertiser because it was relationship based. But I was able to get in there, improve the value, and help her out immediately. So absolutely, that's a big part of it. It is very relationships. And my biggest client now, I've worked with him specifically for 10 years. So I worked with him it was at CBS Interactive, then I worked with him again at AdRoll, and then that was one of the reasons that Quantcast was like, hey, we have an opening, we want you to work on this account. And so I did, and that account has just been one of my favorites to work for. So it is very relationship heavy, but it's great. It's my favorite part of the job. Other than entertaining, it's the building the relationships and truly getting to know the clients that I'm working with, because it just turns into more of a partnership. Yep.
So do you have to manage these accounts like alone? And how many work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So no, so everything's team. And it's funny because when I was at Cal Poly, we did a lot of team projects, and I didn't really like them. I'm not gonna lie, I was like, oh God, another team project. Why would we be doing all these team projects? When I'm working in the working world, I'm gonna be doing this alone, but that's not the case. I'm in a team of 4 or 5. It seems like everywhere that I've worked, it's very team heavy. It's just the more minds, the better, that kind of mentality. And so these projects that you're working on in groups are completely relevant and absolutely critical, because you do need to know how to work with people. And so for me, on my team, myself, the AE, I have an account manager, I have a customer success, I have a technical account manager, I also have a sales director, and then a VP of sales, and then it goes on and on. So when I'm going into a meeting, I always say, oh God, we roll so deep. I try not to take in more than 3 or 4, but I'm kind of running the show on these accounts, so I get to pick. I'm like, okay, we're bringing in you, because this is what you're gonna focus on, this is what you're gonna focus on, this is what I'm gonna bring to the table, and make sure that we're all adding some sort of value that is beneficial for the client. So it's very team heavy. And then whenever there's a problem, or not even a problem, just we're focusing on something to bring to the client, I'm working with product marketing, I'm working with product, I talk to head of engineering all the time, and even our CEO. And that's another reason that I really like a smaller company, is I know all of these people. I can just walk over down the hall and I'm talking with the head of engineering, and I'm talking with our CEO, and it's really cool. And I think that that's something that I really like doing, is having those relationships as well. So definitely a team. Yeah. Yeah, so we are. So my quota is tied to myself, and then my account manager is also tied to that. And then my director has myself and 3 other sales reps. So the way that it works is, that's a really good question. So in the US, we're in territories. So we have Field West, which is my team that I sit on, and we cover the Bay Area, but there's also a team of sellers up in Seattle, LA, and Dallas, and that makes up Field West. Each each kind of office has a quota, and then each AE in that office has a quota. So it kind of rolls up into the greater business. And then there's also East Coast and Central, and it works the same way. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, so one of my favorite client, and the one that I was speaking about, is Adobe. That's one of my big ones. I'm also working with a company called Square. You might have heard of them, the payment processing company, and also Adyen, which is their competitor. Another is a Danish Square-like company. And then that's kind of my big one. And then I work with Adobe's agency as well for brand campaigns. So right now I have 4 or 5 advertisers that I'm supporting. That's doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot of revenue. And so I tend to have more on the smaller side of the number of accounts that I'm managing at a given time. But my colleagues could have, probably 12 or 15. And then if you're inside sales and you're selling smaller deals, you might have 30 accounts. It just really depends on kind of the book of we call it your book of business, and the accounts that sit in that book. So yeah, I have a smaller amount of clients, but a lot of revenue that comes out of them. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to
No, ask away.
You're selling kind of like the real estate and ad space?
That's exactly it.
Okay, so like the company, your clients are the ones putting ads in them?
Yep, that's it. So yeah, exactly. So I'll give Adobe as an example. We're helping them promote their Creative Cloud suite. They're looking for, in this specific case, students. They have an EDU offering for Photoshop, Illustrator, all of that bundled together. And so what we're doing is we're using the Quantcast data and our technology to find students who potentially have expressed interest in a subscription to Creative Cloud, or likely to be interested in it, and then we serve those ads in relevant ad space across the web. Yeah, so yep, you got it. You're ready to sell. Any other questions before I move on? Yep.
So this is skill 1, digital publishing.
Okay.
And we were just talking about this mix of the wave of print media and then digital media, and we've been reading articles that there's some people that are just more on the digital wave is taking over, or but a lot of it was saying that there's this back and forth, and I'm curious on your end for digital media, are you seeing much of, are you working with and intertwining more with some of the print and tangible related marketing as a collective, I guess, strategy, or getting this new client base? Or
Yep, I know what you're saying. And so specifically, I sell just digital. However, I'm working with agencies and clients that are planning and doing that internally. So it all is intertwined. So I work with interactive agencies that are planning out of home, those big banners that you'll see, or billboards, a marketing collateral for events, it might be, or print, definitely print, and then digital. So they're planning, it's called integrated media, and so they're planning all of these different areas of media, not just digital. Quantcast is just a digital player in this space, but there are a number of different agencies that focus on all of this different integrated media, and then also clients too. So you can get within a marketing team and be responsible for events or out of home or print or whatever it might be, and have your hands on a little bit of everything. That absolutely is the case. Yeah. Other questions? How are we on time? We're good? We still have a few minutes. Great. So I'm going to skip. Yeah, I already talked about this. The endless Google Docs and internal meetings are just the bane of my existence. But I'll talk a little bit about qualities of successful sales reps. And whether or not you get into sales as a career, any job that you have is going to have an element of sales. Whether you're talking to your manager in your one-on-ones, we always have one-on-ones. It doesn't matter what career you're in and what job, you're talking about career growth. And if you're up for a promotion, they're not just going to give it to you. You have to sell yourself internally and say, hey, I've done X, Y, Z to earn this. So that's sales in itself. So just know that there's always a little bit of an element of sales no matter what job that you're in. So don't be intimidated and don't be scared by it. It's a really great thing to kind of understand and know how to do. I can't say this enough, but listening, I think, is kind of the number one key element into sales. When I go into a meeting, unless I'm doing a big presentation or a pitch, I'm not talking a lot. It's the one time I'm kind of silent. I'm asking questions, and I just kind of go, okay, tell me. Like, you know your business better than I do. I try to know as much as I can, but I let them do the talking, because once somebody just starts opening up and telling me things, then I can really get to the root of whatever their challenges might be, and then I can come back with a solution. A lot of my job is I'm not really, yes, I'm selling Quantcast, and yes, I'm trying to get people to buy, but I put that on the back burner. I go into these meetings and I try to truly understand what are my clients' problems, what are the obstacles that they're facing, and then I come out of it, okay, I can solve X, Y, Z, or we might need to do this to do this. So I think of myself more as a problem solver more than just I'm, slinging media. And then you do have to have thick skin. I do, but you don't have to be a jerk. I had a manager tell me once, gosh, it was probably 10 years ago, and he said, I will never be a good sales rep because I'm too nice. And that, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Of course you can. That doesn't have anything to do with your skills or how you sell. So I guess the moral of that story is it kind of made me mad, but I wanted to prove to myself that, yes, I can still be a great sales rep and be true to myself and be nice and help people. And so I have. So whatever job that you're in, just be authentic, be yourself. You don't have to change for anyone. So that's something that I've learned over the way. But I have gained thicker skin, and I have had to be a little bit tougher and stand up for myself and ask for what I want. Nothing just happens. You have to make it happen. You have to ask for what you want, and just be persistent and patience. Those are some of the key. And a lot of these elements are really going to tie into any job that you have. It's not just sales related. Goal-oriented, self-motivated, whatever career that you're in, you're going to have goals. You're going to need to be motivated, have good time management skills, and build relationships. So I would say this isn't just sales, this is pretty much for any job. You gotta get along with your peers, right? And then, just understand the business that you're in so you can help people, and that's what I ultimately try to do as a sales rep. And then a few more tips and tricks. This is what I've learned over the years. The way that I sell is more consultative. I'm asking questions and I'm trying to be a problem solver and help, and not really just sell, or just how I would think of it when I originally got started in sales. It's not like a used car salesman. It's more like, tell me where I can help you, or what are your problems, and then I come back with a solution. The thing that I've really noticed over the last few years is writing. This has really become a very email-heavy industry, and there are so many different ways to interpret one sentence. And so I try to be so clear and so direct, and just the clearer the better, because I've had an instance where I've written a paragraph or a couple of sentences and my client interprets it completely differently. I'm like, how did that, oh yeah, okay, I can see how you would read it that way. So I try to read it and think of the different ways that could be interpreted before I send it. So I think that's something to just kind of be aware of, that clear writing is very important, and think about how the other person might interpret it. And then a mirroring technique, this is for sales, but I think this can be used for any sort of internal presentation or meeting that you're working with, is kind of reading the vibe of the room. If I go into an agency meeting and they're very hyper and very perky, I can mirror that. I'm not saying like copy or mimic, but it's a technique that's used to just kind of set the stage and kind of make it equal. And then if it's more serious and calm, then I'm more serious and calm. And it's just the way, I'm not mimicking hand motions or whatnot, but it's just kind of a feel in the room, and it just kind of sets the stage. I found a lot of good techniques with that. And then just little things like, I never do an agenda when I'm going into a meeting. I always say discussion overview. For me, if I'm going in with an agenda, I think of it more as me talking at them, where if it's a discussion overview, I think of it more as like, hey, we're gonna have a conversation and do this together. And then I never use budget, I always use investment, because they're investing in our product to help them solve something. And it's a big investment, and so I always think about it and talk about it like that. And then like I mentioned before, I just ask questions and then I sit back. and then let the information come over me. And that's one of the successes that I've had. And then this is any job, right? When you start, fake it until you make it. It's hard. You're starting something brand new you don't know. Just be confident, just trust in yourself, and just pretend. And then all of a sudden you're gonna know, hey, I actually know what I'm doing now. And it takes some time, but you guys are all gonna be great and you're gonna get a job no problem. And then, but before we wrap up, I wanted to give you some job titles. So I talked a little bit, so I would say vendor side is a Quantcast or a Google or a Facebook, a CNET, an AdRoll. Those are people that are selling tech products, yeah? Oh, I got 3 minutes. Perfect. So entry-level jobs, SDR, sales development representative, business development, account coordinator. Those are kind of the job titles you would be looking for if you're searching. Agency side, I sell to agencies, but they're also supporting a client. They're also selling their services, so that's also a sales type of job. Media coordinator, assistant media planner, and I'll send this out to you so you guys can have all of these titles. But this is what you would be searching for. And then if you wanted to go client side, if you wanted to get into marketing for an Adobe or for a MindBody, you'd be looking at these titles to kind of work your way into. So hopefully this is helpful when you're doing your job search. And then, yeah, network. So I think networking is huge. So I think you're probably going to have the same experience that I had, and that my fellow GRC colleagues have just been nothing but helpful. We help one another. If somebody's at a job and then you're interested in getting a job, like I will have no problem submitting resumes, and we help one another and we share information. So I think you're going to find the same thing. And if anybody here, the 2 people who might be interested in sales, find something at Quantcast down the road, send me a note. I will absolutely update or upload your resume to the system. Typically, when you get an internal referral, it bumps it to the top of the list. So it is helpful who you know to help you to get the interview, not necessarily get the job, but it does help, and it will bump your resume up to the top. And then just do what you're doing. Attend career fairs, job fairs, network, meet as many people, and just know that you're all going to get a job. You're in an awesome major. There are so many different career paths that you can take. Sales, digital media, print, doesn't matter. You're in a really good spot, and the economy is great right now, so you're good. It wasn't when I got out, and I didn't have any trouble. And then last but not least, these are some educational websites. LinkedIn, I can't speak enough about. That is a great resource. Glassdoor, ZipRecruiter, Simply Hired. These are a lot of publications that you can read if you are interested in digital media, to kind of give you the lay of the land of what's going on in the industry. And then I love Instagram. I'm into it. These are just funny memes. I love a good meme. And so those are great. And then last but not least, the truth about sales. It's hard, but it's also really, really rewarding. This industry is changing so fast that everything that's going on now is going to be vastly different in 2 or 3 years when you graduate. It's stressful, but it's also so fun, and it's so rewarding. I'm not bored. If I was bored, I would not be in this job. It's constantly changing, and I'm constantly learning, and I think that's what helps me keep me on my toes. And then, would I choose this again? What do you guys think? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. For me, I could not have found a better career path at this point in my life, and I'm absolutely happy that I've been able to do it and use GRC as kind of the foundation and the jumping off point of getting into this type of industry. So any additional sales reps? Do we have more than 2 now, except for the back row? Okay, I call that a win. Well, regardless if you get into sales or not, I wish you all the best of luck, and I'm happy to answer any questions about careers or getting a job or resumes or whatever it may be. Use me as a resource. I'm happy to connect with you and help you guys out. Thank you.